Welcome to your weekly Open the Door to Tai Chi lesson. Today we're going to savor the bite of the ward-off sequence. Now, that's my terminology, the ward-off sequence. You may just think of it as grasp the bird's tail. That's fine. I like to think of it as that sequence because that's how we learn those movements together. And as I was thinking about savoring this bite, I thought this is going to be kind of a natural bite for us. Not too small, not too big, because we learn it as a bite. We learn this sequence together and it flows. As I teach my beginners that eventually all of their Tai Chi will flow like the ward-off sequence. There's a lot going on there, so there's a lot to savor in this bite. There's also a realization that because we learn it as a flow, it's very easy to just, speed through it. Just get through it and not really slow down and think about what you're doing. So let's take this opportunity to savor this bite, slow it down, think about why we're doing what we're doing, and feeling that energy as we go through this very important movement sequence. So ward off starts with that hold the ball. And I just want you to again recall that hold the ball as we learned with part the wild horse's mane, with brush knee, that this is not something to rush through. You're actually gathering energy here, breathing in. Then as we step, we ward off and we let the dantian lead this movement. Right? Trying to keep those shoulders down, keeping ourselves open and loose. As we ward off, we realize this energy is the pong energy. Ward off means to have the opponent kind of bounce back from whence he came. You are using this energy here to stop his progress. Okay? So think about that as you step back and ward off. Now as you grasp the bird's tail, think about your columns. Am I overreaching? Am I making myself become unrooted by overreaching? Breaking my columns. We don't have to overreach to grasp the bird's tail. As we roll back, remember this energy is a yield. We're allowing our opponent to use his energy to go a little bit further than what he was anticipating because we yield to his energy coming toward us. That's a lu. Then as we rotate, and press, this is a Ji energy. It's a press or a squeeze. It's a very aggressive energy coming into our opponent. And then our pushing Qi on energy. Pressing down and up and forward. Again, thinking about our columns. What a simple movement, pushing Qi, right? But we can push too far and break our columns. We can lose our rooted and grounded by lifting that back heel. We can be not really thinking about our breath as we're doing that pushing Qi, but what a simple one where you're breathing in as you come towards your body and breathing out as you push away. Just do a few push Qi. So let's do it on that one side again, holding that ball, taking a nice deep breath in. Let's think about our breath. Ward off. You're starting to breathe out. Grasp the bird's tail. Then you have the opportunity to breathe in as you yield. Then as you use that aggressive G press, breathing out. And then breathing in at the first part of this on as you're pressing down, and then up and forward, pushing chi. Think about how upper and lower need to be coordinated with this ward off sequence. As I coordinate through my dantian, I'm letting my body turn in this direction, right? I'm not turning and then stepping. It's a coordination through the dantian that allows that energy, that pong energy, to go into my opponent. Grasp the bird's tail. Same thing with this lu energy, using that dantian to roll back and yield. Same thing here as I come back into my opponent, and with the pushing chi, that dantian is the leader. Don't get confused that your hands are the leader. The dantian is the leader. And remember that upper and lower follow one another. That energy is rooted in the feet, right? Comes through the legs, commanded by the waist, and then expressed through the hands. If we can think of that energy flow as we're doing this ward off sequence, it will go a long way into helping the rest of our form feel that flow of the energy. So taking a nice deep breath in, stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Now think about going into the next ward off. You're bringing your weight over to the right. And then what are you doing here as you come to the left? You're gathering that energy. And ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. And you might think that your substantial and insubstantial changes are not important in your ward off, but that's not true. Just because you're not moving forward and having one leg being completely insubstantial and then substantial, just because you have both feet in contact with the ground doesn't mean that you're not feeling that weight shift. It's still very important as we hold the ball here. Yes, now that left leg becomes empty because we do have to step out. But now as we ward off, that left leg becomes a little bit more full, about 60-40 here. As we grasp the bird's tail, it stays here. Then as we roll back, we do need to use that substantial and insubstantial and let that water flow into the right. Then as we press, we let the water flow back into the left. And then as we do our pushing chi, flows into the right and then into the left to express that energy into our opponent. That substantial and insubstantial is actually very important. Keeping yourself rooted and grounded, feeling that energy coming up from the ground. Keeping your shoulders and elbows down are important. It might feel like we're lifting here, but We're not lifting from the shoulders, okay? We're keeping the shoulders down. We're using those elbows, yes, for part of that pong. There's another energy that actually is an elbow strike, but this is pong, where you're letting your opponent, you're bouncing him back from whence he came. But you're not raising your elbows like this. This is a very weak position. You want to be strong and use that dantian as you come into that ward off. So let's do both sides of the body now and think about savoring all of those pieces of your ward off. Let yourself just stand still for a second. Think about being suspended from the crown of your head. Let those shoulders relax. Now let the knees relax. Think about energy. Think about that egg underneath so that you're open, rounded, and loose. Breathing in nice and deep, long and slow. Good. Then taking that ball, taking a nice deep breath in. Stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Leading from the dantian, roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Bringing your weight over to the right. Gathering that energy back to the left. And ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Now I want to do it one more time, and I want you to think about your opponent. I want you to think about being rooted and grounded. Are you stable enough to use your pong energy against your opponent? Rolling back. Rotate and press. Keeping it open and loose. Pushing chi. Feeling that coordination of upper and lower. Linked without breaks. Ward off. Notice your stance, lower your stance if you can. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. So one of the things, because I said like I mentioned earlier, because it's familiar and because we learn it as a flow, it's very tempting to kind of rush through the ward off sequence. So as you practice this week, get a stopwatch. We all have phones. There's a stopwatch app. If you don't have one, get one. Click on that stopwatch. See how long it takes you to go through the ward off sequence, both sides of the body. And then try it again and try to slow it down by a second. And do it again, slow it down by a second. And then as you get used to that slower pace, start to match your breath to that slower pace. Really make sure that that inhalation and exhalation can be as uniform as possible, but also as slow as possible. Nice and deep and long and slow. So there's lots to practice with this week with that ward-off sequence. Get yourself a stopwatch and see if you can slow yourself down. And next week we'll move on to single whip and wave hands like clouds, everybody's favorite movement. I'll see you then.